podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
This lad, Anthony Martial, ever seen him play before?
I don't think I watched the Arsenal-Monaco game last season, so I believe I've seen him play never before.
Very good. Yeah, I had to remind myself, I did watch the Arsenal-Monaco game last season. So, he's either cost United 36 million or 58 million or 63 million or 197. No, not that one. Worth every penny, though, after that wonder goal. What a moment from the young lad.
I mean, I know it's sort of ridiculous, but in a way, he has already paid back his transfer fee because no one is ever going to forget that, ever. It was absolutely incredible. One of the great football moments of our lifetimes, I think, that goal.
Yeah, I mean, just a wonderful moment, leaving aside everything else surrounding the guy. It's 88th minute, United just pegged back to 2-1, scores an absolute wonder goal at the Stretford end in front of the United fans against the old rivals to seal a victory. It was absolute bedlam in the stadium as well. Brilliant moment. Of course, we've had those brilliant moments before, haven't we? So, as Mark Lawrenson was keen to point out, where is Federico Makeda now? In the Championship with Cardiff.
I just think it's funny when people compare him to Makeda.
Yeah, I know. It's you take 2 moments in time and say, that has any relevance. Of course, it has no relevance at all. I think the better point is that we know nothing about this player yet, but it's to take nothing away from this just amazing goal. And it suggested so much, didn't it? Just in that one moment, his ability to get the ball, run at players without fear. And what a composed finish as well for a player who's scored, his 12th goal in his career.
It's just mind-boggling. And it's exactly that. It's like the pure composure to be able to finish that chance and to like the skill to be able to carve out the chance, and then the kind of quickness of thought and I don't know the kind of indication of confidence, because he's not had a good start to the season with Monaco. You know, he's not hit a shot on target as the stats would do in the rounds so far this season. Not a bad start to his shots on target for the season.
Well, right, yeah, he actually was finding it hard to get into the game. I mean, he came on just after the hour or so, and he played up front, on the right and on the left, and I guess that's the kind of player he is. He did drift around, and Fellaini was up front and then pushed him into midfield. I did quite like the moment when he came on and just kind of berated Fellaini and told him to get back in midfield. Yeah, good job, young man. But actually, after that, he found it very hard to get into the game with any kind of rhythm, which is fair enough. And United were actually on the back foot for quite a bit of that last half an hour or so, weren't they, as Liverpool kind of came into the game. But yeah, all forgotten in that one moment where he sent Skirtle into a spin and then just slotted it into the corner, which of course everyone suddenly recalled about 50 Thierry Henry goals where he's done exactly the same thing. He's not going to help himself there with the comparison, is he?
No. And, he gets the Thierry Henry comparison all the time, obviously.
Yeah. Is he black? Check. Did he play for Monaco? Check. Is he a young man? Check. Does he like to play somewhere across the forward line and come in from the left wing? Check.
I do think there's a little bit more substance to this one, though, isn't there?
Is he French? Check.
Yeah, there you go. That's the crucial thing. But there's a sort of stylistic similarity, obviously, which was extremely evident with the way he took that goal. Alwyn Payne on Twitter saying that's the goal Danny Welbeck's been trying to score for 5 years. I was thinking, it's a tiny bit harsh. That is the goal that Danny Welbeck scored against West Bromwich. Just the stakes were a little lower at that time. I think the thing about the goal being super important is really relevant because it's not just the fact that it's on his debut in front of the Stretford end after all the kind of press coverage and pressure that came with that transfer, but it's also a moment where United desperately needed a goal. Because once again, we go 2-0 up against Liverpool and act like the game's over.
Well, the funny thing was, Van Gaal said after the game that he enjoyed the first half more than the second, right? Which was just a comedy moment.
He's just the wrong one, isn't he? I love him.
It was just one of the worst halves of football I've witnessed for a very long time. And it was just so awful. You just want to block it out of your mind, don't you? And how Van Gaal can have enjoyed that more? Well, he enjoyed it more because United had complete control and didn't in the second half when it actually became a bit more open. And that's the thing he doesn't like. It doesn't fill you full of kind of hope, does it, that United are going to get any better this season? And in fact, only had 3 shots on target in the entire game. Martial's wonder goal, Herrera's penalty, and Blint's fine finish. There, Dutchman. I'm always mistaking these Dutchmen.
The thing about Van Gaal that I think people got very het up about that quote, because that first half of football was profound anti-football, right? It was the dullest kind of whatever the opposite of an advert is for the brand of football that we've been playing this season.
It wasn't just United, of course. Liverpool went there to defend against the United team containing no strikers.
Yeah, but he changed it at half-time. He wasn't that happy. If he was genuinely happy with it and he wanted us to keep playing like that, he would have kept things the same. But no, he realised that that system needs Memphis or Mata or Herrera to create something. And Memphis just didn't look like he was on it at all. He looked like he wasn't going to create anything. And I kind of half expected him to pick Young from the start, actually, in that game. When the rumours were going around that Fellaini was up front, it kind of almost makes more sense. But Memphis had put in that really good crossing display with Holland in midweek, so you kind of think, well, maybe that will nudge Van Gaal's thinking in that direction. But obviously, at halftime, he brought Young on because he wanted something different in that attack.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Memphis found it very hard to get into the game. Young came in and he was direct and he got the ball and he ran at players. He didn't manage to deliver a cross on target. He did get an assist, although that was the pass to Anthony Martial. So I'm not quite sure I'm going to credit him with that one. He will get it in the record books, but...
He also won the free kick as well.
He did.
Which was really important.
And he actually didn't dive for that free kick.
Not at all. Although he did do the same thing with his body shape that he does when he dived. So for a second, I thought the ref wasn't going to give it because it kind of looked like an Ashley Young dive, even though it wasn't one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, he was looking for it, wasn't he?
He was. But yeah, that first half was just totally atrocious from an attacking perspective. Brilliant from a defensive perspective. Brilliant from an organisational perspective. But my goodness, that was a long 45 minutes. And at the end of that 45 minutes, I had to write something after the match. And I was kind of planning, what the heck are we going to do with this season type article in my brain? Because halfway through that game, you're thinking, well, this is just this again. And there's no sign of it changing. And then in the end, it changed from some pretty clever work, some training groundwork. And it was notable in the first half that all our set pieces went back to Blint. Even like our corners were getting knocked back to Blint, and he was kind of hitting them in outswingers from the left. So I don't know, there was obviously something that they'd identified. But then that very well worked free kick, which really exploited Liverpool's zonal marking system.
Yeah, I mean, bizarre really, because almost every team in the country will put a player on the edge of the 18-yard area to clear any knockback. So they followed United's 3 runners directly into the 6-yard area. So let's credit Van Gaal with this one. He said they worked at it on the training ground, and perhaps they'd actually spotted something about Liverpool's defending from set pieces too. Certainly shouldn't have scored from that position, got to say. But, a beautiful finish from Blint as well. Just stroked it into the top corner.
Really, really nice. Not an easy one at all either, like coming across him at some pace.
Yeah, and while we're talking about Blint, praise for his defensive performance as well. Benteke, that's the 3rd or 4th big guy he's faced now and really hasn't been exposed by it. I mean, the only time he's really been exposed was his twice out of position for... in the games against Swansea a couple of weeks ago. But apart from that he was really exposed there. And it was kind of the game you think, well, yeah, I've been expecting that to happen. But what's that, the 6th game of the season or something like that? And that's really the only one in which he hasn't looked comfortable. Games to come will be tougher, of course, and maybe maybe we're speaking too soon if we say that he's actually looking pretty good there, and United feel like a very good defensive unit at the moment. That's 2 weeks on from really not looking like a good defensive unit against Swansea, of course.
But I think that there's a couple of big differences. I mean, the first thing, I think this thing about the big man is so crucial, because this was the thing everyone was worried about. I was very concerned about Benteke against Blint. There was two things. One, in the first half, it was weird because Benteke was not doing what Harry Kane had done, and he was kind of leaning towards Smalling's side, which seemed a very odd decision. But then there was that moment in the second half where they're both competing for a ball, and Blint did exactly what he did to the Club Brugge centre-forward in the home leg of that game, where he just used his brain to stand in the right position. So it doesn't matter if someone's stronger than you, if your centre of gravity's planted better than theirs, they're not going to knock you over, right? So he's just very smart. And the big difference between this game and a Swansea game, of course, in terms of that defensive unit, is De Gea's there. And
well, yeah, of course, and had a very fine performance as well. Pulled off 2 or 3 very good stops.
Apart from his kicking, which used to be good. I'm sure I remember David De Gea's kicking being good once.
Let's just call him a little bit rusty. He hasn't played very much this season, has he?
No, he hasn't.
One interesting thing, we talk about the big men against United, and actually United are a very small team apart from Fellaini out front there, and it kind of showed in the stats 8 to 21 aerials won. So United do have a problem there. Part of that, of course, is that they're launching it long at Fellaini all the time.
But they didn't. They did not do that. They
sought him out in the attacking third, and I think that's part of the problem, that United's attack was a little asinine. I'm not saying they launched it, route one, David Moyes era. But they were looking... Swansea,
last 10 minutes against Swansea.
Right,
that this was not that.
But there is a temptation to go into him early, and he didn't win all those headers. But, and defensively, United are just quite small, right? So you've got Smalling and Fellaini are the only 2 big guys in the team. Darmian's actually not short for a fullback, but there's not a lot there height-wise, and so it is a vulnerability for United. But defensively, very sound. Got those 2 shields, Schweinsteiger and Carrick, who provided very effective cover for United against the Liverpool team that didn't really want to attack. And talking of Schweinsteiger, his best game for United, I think. Yeah, he was in such control. 4 out of the top 5 pass combinations involving him. Unsurprising.
Got the good shivers when I think about Schweinsteiger in the second half of that game, in particular. In the first half, he was kind of part of the whole, let's keep the ball and not use it that brilliant. But at least he's looking forward. He's got an attacking brain, hasn't he? An attacking instinct. He's wired to try and create. But what a flipping player. And you want him for games like Liverpool at home, don't you? You want him for the big games. And there's a photo doing around of him talking to Martial and just pointing at his eye keep your eye on X, Y, and Z. And it's just this thing of having Schweinsteiger around to help the kids is so vitally important. Before we move on from our back four altogether, though, another fine performance from both fullbacks. Luke Shaw, absolutely brilliant, and definitely our best player in the first half, our most kind of potent threat, worryingly, in the first half. Darmian, fantastic defensively, but he's got to do something about his crossing. You get Gary Neville there to coach him on how he improved as a crosser in the latter stages of his career, because Mata's putting the ball in behind to Darmian, and Darmian's just Valencia-ing it into the first man.
Yeah, not all the time this season, but I agree in general. This is a weakness of his. Shaw, interesting one, because he hasn't been reined in yet, except for a couple of games away from home where in the first half United haven't pushed the fullbacks forward. So generally speaking, his instinct is to go all the time, and sometimes he goes at the same time as Darmian, and that will leave United vulnerable in some games. So and I guess blaming Blint for the goals against Swansea is also good to remember that both goals came down United's right-hand side, and so Shaw's been fantastic this season. He's maturing as a player. He's a better player now than when he was at Southampton. He's a great attacking outlet. United's only attacking outlet at some points, and he goes all the time. But the risk, of course, is that he does leave space behind, and United will be caught in some games. So he's just got to learn when to go and when not to. But two fine points from United's team at the moment, the fullbacks.
Yeah, Carrick, good good to see Carrick warming up into the season. Easily the best pass of the night, his through ball for Herrera for the penalty.
Yeah, beautiful pass and smartly taken on by Herrera, and definite penalty. The player dived in when he didn't have to. And Herrera's never actually taken a penalty in a game before. He said he'd been training all week, though, and he knew he'd be the main penalty taker. Or had been told he would be one of the penalty takers. So he's been training and put it right in the top corner.
He's in the weird Van Gaal penalty rotation system, isn't he? So he's ahead of Rooney because Rooney missed one once.
Yeah, and Mata would have been the penalty taker, but he was off the pitch at the time the penalty came.
Yeah, and they are just the same player, aren't they? They're just the same, Mata and Herrera, they're just totally interchangeable. On the pitch, off the pitch, two fun-loving lads having a great time of it.
Yeah, with De Gea, of course. We haven't talked about his contract. Maybe let's finish the game first, then we can talk about
okay.
Big Dave's contract. But the three of them are back together.
It's nice. Man United Twitter account having brilliant fun, sending some friends of the Rantcast tweets, which was good. But yeah, the midfield worked very well. The defence worked very well. And finally, the attack worked brilliantly, or one of the attackers worked brilliantly. 2-0 would have really flattered United. Benteke joining the club of which Darren Fletcher is lifetime president of, scorer of amazing goals that will be forgotten in history because they came for the side that lost. What a goal!
What a goal! But it was above head high, and surely in the Premier League's sort of rules these days, that should have been ruled out. I mean, no, it shouldn't have been, and I'm Yankee chain, but it's, oh God, that would have been wonderful to rule that out. Can you imagine Merseyside melting down?
Nice to see a few people give that applause in K-Stand. I think that is good. Even Liverpool game, there's some sportsmanship in that crowd.
No, it was ironic.
Maybe so. But what a hit. People talking about whether that's better than Rooney's overhead. And I think it's, you could say it's kind of technically more perfect than Rooney's overhead. He addressed the ball more directly than Rooney did. Like, Rooney definitely did hit it with his shin. Not that he shinned it in, but, it wasn't, but Benteke got everything you're supposed to get on that, didn't he? He
got it very cleanly, and it was past Dave before he could even react to it. The only thing I'd say about Rooney is the ball is coming a very long way from Nani, and that's much more difficult to get hold of when it's swinging in like that from a long distance than Benteke's, which definitely wasn't. So, I would still go for Rooney's as a harder one that he's managed to execute, albeit off his shin.
But superb goal from Benteke, and delightful to be able to just praise that goal without it having affected the outcome, because we all know what happened next. And just, that goal was important because it was important in the match. It's important because it's obviously a huge thing for Martial in his career, but it's also important, like, when we take on teams later in the season, it's quite good for them to know that he's got that in his locker, because United are so easy to defend against at the moment. You kind of need defenders to be thinking about something other than just, we just need to make sure we stand in the right place so they can't get any of these passes through.
Right, yeah. I mean, before the game, I thought it'd be pass, hoof, miss, right? and that wasn't too far off the pattern for a long time. And you're absolutely right. If Depay isn't going to be in great form yet, he's the other player who's got pace in the attacking sort of third, then Martial all of a sudden is going to be very crucial. And Van Gaal at pains to suggest that he's a young guy coming from France and we shouldn't expect too much and he's going to be inconsistent, of course, but all of a sudden we know we can give a player the ball and he's going to run at someone, and defenders will have to go a little deeper because they certainly didn't have to do that before. So yeah, there's a plan B, and we haven't had a plan B other than lumping at Fellaini's brush.
Well, it's like a plan C, isn't it? Because plan B is firmly established.
Yeah. Well, plan A without Rooney, isn't it? So.
I mean, isn't it like so kind of the transfer window's been shut 5 minutes and Rooney, everyone's going, God, what's going to happen if Rooney gets injured? Then Rooney gets injured ahead of the Liverpool game. Really just remarkable timing. And what is going to happen is Fellaini's going to play up front as first choice alternative to Rooney. And I guess that will change throughout the season. But Van Gaal revealed this week there was a pretty telling... A load of stuff's happened in United-related news. I guess we'll come on to it. But Van Gaal was talking about the fact that Wilson is going out on loan. There's a recall clause, but he wasn't on the bench because he's on his way out on loan. Everyone thinks that's to Derby, but I don't think that's been confirmed yet. But that just seems like, okay, there's a recall clause, so there's some logic there. But wow, what are we doing, you know?
Well, could United finish the season with a striker who doesn't have 10 goals to his name?
No, because Martial's going to score 40 now.
I tell you what, Paul, if Martial scores 40, I will do something.
Will you have Wayne Rooney's overhead kick against City tattooed onto your left shoulder blade?
Yeah, in henna. Yeah, nothing permanent. That would be very foolish.
All right, well, in that case, it's going to be 20 goals. That's going to be because, you know, if it's just henna, 20 goals is fair, I think. There's no way Marcel's going to score 20. I'm talking about league goals. It's just not going to happen, is it?
No, it's not going to happen. But, I mean, hey, I was half serious about the first bit. I mean, if Rooney doesn't get 10, wow. I mean, he was talking before the season about getting 25, so was Van Gaal. But it doesn't look like he'll get anywhere near that. And we're only counting league goals, right? Not hat-tricks he's scored against third-rate Belgian sides or penalties against San Marino. So anyway, anything more to talk about in the Liverpool game? I mean, it's a fantastic 3 points for United. It's the old enemy beaten. They've lost 2 in a row. Brendan Rodgers is under pressure. He's obviously getting the boot before Christmas, and Van Gaal's managed to win a game after the loss to get the ship steady again. That's the summary, right?
I think so. And you know, to do weird role reversal where you just spill out all the positives and I kind of say, but I'm not sure about this. I think it is really important to say that they're 45 minutes into that game, it really did look like every problem we all think is a problem with United was very much to the fore, and really what we kind of know about this team is they can still pull it out for the big occasions, and we're still going to be good against teams that want to have a go. But there are big problems in United's attack. Really big problems in United's attack.
Really big problems, and Van Gaal's in complete denial about it. I mean, total denial. Look, we've said on this pod before several times, he's pretty straight. So I don't think he's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. He thinks he hasn't got a problem there, but he has got a problem because, you know, at this rate, United will score somewhere between 60 and 70 goals. I know they've just scored 3 against Liverpool, so that kind of sounds ridiculous, but it was from the only 3 shots they had on target. 60 to 70 goals will probably leave United around 4th. It's a really silly game to try and predict your ending position from the amount of goals scored because it fluctuates quite wildly. But let's assume that leaves them with a kind of net positive goal difference in the low 20s or something like that, and it's going to be about 4th, which is, I suppose, where we expect them. But United cannot win the Premier League with so few goals. They're not going to score that many goals this season because A, the style, and B, they haven't got any strikers who are going to score those goals if the style's going to remain turgid. So it's frustrating because it seems like a really big blind spot.
Yeah, and talking of Van Gaal being in denial, it's a decent time to move on to United news. There's a wonderful Vine doing the rounds of Van Gaal shouting Louis Van Gaal's army, not in a car park this time, but in a press conference where he was talking about fan support. And I think this was kind of interesting and quite telling, actually, because I don't think he knows that fans are fed up with him. And it kind of was the same thing that happened with Moyes. It's a very different situation. And by the way, I have to say, I'm actually not that fed up with Van Gaal. I think I've sort of taken a deep breath and realised it's going to be a long couple of years, but they'll be left in a very good state. That's my kind of... We talked about this last week. But so it's not like Moyes in that situation, but it is like Moyes in the sense that because the home crowd will just get behind the manager and sing his name, the manager thinks he's got the fans on side. But he hasn't. The fans are sick of it. They're sick of the football. You know, I don't even think it's really about winning or not winning. And obviously, it's a huge lift around the end of that Liverpool game. It's a glorious thing. But that stuff, that first half that Van Gaal was happy with, apparently, fans are really fed up.
Yeah, well, the jeers were out at half time, and there were more shouts of attack, right? So I don't think it's not hyperbole to say that. Yeah, fans are pretty fed up with the style of play. I think that you'd be hard pressed to find too many fans who think that Van Gaal's philosophy or process or whatever the word is at the moment, it matches up well with what we kind of expect at United, and I know that's kind of flippant, isn't it, to talk about the United way and all of that, but they don't match up well at the moment. It is a very strange kind of football to bring to England, let alone Old Trafford. But it's what we've got, and it doesn't mean that he can't win. The point I was making a moment ago is I think there's a mismatch between what his style of play is that he wants, and I think it's more attacking than he's got at the moment, and what he's got available in the squad, right? So you want to play that style of football and you're Barcelona and you want to control, then you've got something explosive in the final third, and United don't have that. So they've got a lot of slow in the final third, and which kind of feels to me like they just need to open up a little bit more, otherwise we're shooting for third at best and probably fourth.
But I think that's what he sees this season as the season to bring through Martial, bring through Memphis. Next season, we've got that pace that we need, and they'll have had a season under their belts. And we see the difference between Luke Shaw, who was a Premier League player even, but the difference between him last season and the start of this season, the kind of difference a season at United can make to a player's development. Last season was the kind of stabilisation season. This season is the kind of progression and transitionary season, and next season's the one for Van Gaal.
But I mean that's fine. But spending £250 million, you can actually spend some of that money on some finished products, right? So
sure, but such a huge chunk of that 250 million was on an absolutely finished product. The kind of the player that it looks like you would put that player into that side and it would transform it into a world-beating side. If we were looking around the world, we never signed Di Maria last summer, we'd be thinking, if you put Di Maria in United side, it's going to make a huge difference, the way we've been playing so far this season. So a big chunk of that went on that and it just didn't work. And that's partly the manager's fault. I'm not excusing him totally from responsibility for this situation, and I think it could have been better, but it's just really interesting because you were talking about the refusal to compromise on quality in the transfer window, because if you do compromise on quality you end up progressively lowering the quality of the side, and it almost feels like that's what's happened this summer. They've just refused to compromise on quality up front. I was watching yesterday and you think, why don't we sign Benteke in the summer? Like, it's 30 odd million quid, which is more than he's worth, but so what, we could really do with a striker like that in the squad.
Yeah, I guess we've discussed Benteke before. I'm not sure I feel he's the one, because he's just not good all of the time, and that would have been a problem. But you're right, he's better than Fellaini up there, right?
Isn't he better than any of our strikers if really he's going to play like this?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I think, the challenge is, of course, the Liverpoolisation of the United squad. If you do compromise on quality, if you don't sign another worldie somewhere else, or a player who could be a worldie, then you are progressively lowering the standard of your squad, of course, and it's very hard to get out of that. It's very, very hard, The premium you pay to go from third to second and second to first is an awful lot, generally speaking, unless you have some miracle like Sir Alex Ferguson as your manager. And I don't have that at the moment.
The other thing about the spending is, like, you just said it. We see it all everywhere. He spent 250 million quid, but he just hasn't spent 250 million quid, because, like, people joke about this net spend thing, and it's become a ridiculous meme. You can't talk about net spend anymore. Don't talk about spend, fella. But, like, if you're not considering the fact that 100 million quid's gone out of the club, and let alone the fact that Rio, Vidic, Evra, Giggs, Scholes have all gone in the last couple of years as well.
That's fine. So money is the proxy we have for quality. It's a market. It's not a perfect market, and it's not transparent. And there are a lot of variables that you don't have in any typical market, right? So it's not like you head into Tesco's and you want to buy a lemon and the lemon at Morrison's is half the price because it's only got a 2-year contract, right? So
I feel like you just let the lemon run down its contract and everyone loses there.
Well, you can wait till the end of the day when they mark down the lemons because they're out of date the next day, which is what Real Madrid tried to do with De Gea. Now, we'll talk about this almost, and he's seen a cow and the grass was greener or whatever Ferguson tried to say a few years back. Anyway, so it's not a perfect market, and so the price of a player is not a perfect proxy for his quality, but it is the only proxy we've really got. So that's why net spend versus spend something that's talked about because it's a measure of quality in and quality out. Of course, he's let a lot of players go. He let 15 players go this summer, brought in 6, and he's actually got a very small squad as a result of that. So, which is why there's a feeling that he's got a squad that's slightly imbalanced. It's got an imbalance of either fit or quality central defenders and an imbalance of fit or quality attackers. And like 18 central midfielders who are absolutely magic.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's not brilliant. The Van Gaal news train was rolling deep this week. There was the story that, shockingly, Wayne Rooney and Michael Carrick had talked, as captain and vice-captain, had talked to Van Gaal about his training methods. Even though, like, the fact that this story was like sold as a kind of mutiny in the press, in spite of the fact that Van Gaal had said the night before, this had happened a couple of weeks ago, Van Gaal had said the night before that Rooney's the best captain he's ever had. Both of them can't stop talking in the papers about how they're both happy to listen to the other one, sort of thing. It's clear that there isn't a full-scale mutiny against Van Gaal in the dressing room, although there is talk that players were pretty unhappy about the way that Raphael and Johnny Evans' departures were handled.
Yes, just shipped out. No long goodbye, no handshakes and all of that kind of stuff. But so look, this talk of mutiny is obviously nonsense. It's much the same way and Van Gaal called this one as well, that there was an attempt to drive a wedge between Ed Woodward and Van Gaal over transfers. So it's kind of made up. Actually, the story that really should be doing the rounds in the papers is United supporters feeling fed up with the style of play, and that just doesn't get the back pages because it's really hard. It's a kind of intangible, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas Rooney supposedly arguing with Van Gaal over style and tactics is something much more meaty that you can get hold of, and it's just nonsense. But that said, I do tend to agree with Gary Neville's column in Telegraph this week, where he said there's just a few too many players that he's fallen out with, Valdez, Di Maria, Rojo now, and others, for it to be good news.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. So Ferguson fell out with plenty of players over the years, and generally speaking, they left the club shortly thereafter. But Wayne Rooney being the only one who managed to stay on, I think. But Van Gaal's managed to fall out with like 5 or 6 players and within the space of 18 months, which is interesting.
And it's also 100% predictable, right? This is Van Gaal's entire career. You can find groups of people who will either say that Van Gaal is the devil or Hitler or one of the best coaches of all time. Xavi saying this week that nobody appreciates Van Gaal when he manages them, and then you realise afterwards what he did for you, sort of thing. Thomas Muller and Bastian Schweinsteiger kind of absolutely love and adore him, and Rivaldo thinks he's scum, you know. Who was it? Stoichkov.
Oh.
Stoichkov would definitely full-on murder Van Gaal if he got the chance.
Yes, he is rent-a-quote when it comes to the I Hate Van Gaal club.
Yeah.
Along with Luca Toni.
But then Valdez thing is kind of interesting because Andy Mitten was saying on the UWS podcast that Valdez just thinks they'll just make up. Because they do, and he's not in the Champions League squad, but he is in the Premier League squad, Valdez. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think that's more to do with the amount of players that United could ship into the B list there. But yeah.
But, you know, he could easily have left him off that list as well, couldn't he, you know, if he wanted to. But anyway, that is definitely a problem. That Gary Neville column, though, there's another problem with that column, and that is the kind of class of 92 mafia situation that we're all operating under, which is very confusing because Van Gaal has been nothing but supportive of Giggs. He's talked so highly of him in that same thing that he talked about Rooney being his best captain ever. He said he's bought Anthony Martial for the next Manchester United manager, Ryan Giggs. You know, he's very overt about the fact that he is training Giggs up to be the next manager.
Yes. So the class of 92 have an in rather than the way they did a Brutus on David Moyes, right? So
yeah, but I don't quite understand why. I mean, I don't understand the kind of notion that they're trying to get Van Gaal out to get Giggs in because it's a season and a half and Giggs could just do with the time to learn, really. There's no rush to get rid of Van Gaal to get Giggs in, is there?
No. That's right. I mean, you know, Neville has a conflict here in that he's a United supporter, an ex-United player, but he's also a pundit, you know, and it doesn't make very good copy to be fully in praise of United or Van Gaal, so he tries to make interesting copy. He also has a conflict, of course, in that he's an England manager, which is why he'll never say a bad thing about Wayne Rooney, even if Wayne Rooney pulls down his pants and takes a dump in the centre of the pitch.
Yes.
Which is pretty much what Wayne Rooney does on the week. No,
No, we missed Rooney in that team. We missed Rooney in a way. Like, Fellaini is definitely... Fellaini's first touch as a centre forward was worse than Rooney's, which was quite impressive. And of course, let's take a minute for a change to celebrate one of Wayne Rooney's more remarkable achievements. It's easy to be scathing about the fact that it came in 2 penalties against San Marino and Switzerland, and in a way that is relevant from a United perspective because there was no return to form over the international break. You know, it was very much business as usual for Rooney. But to set that aside, to become your country's all-time leading goal scorer is an absolutely staggering achievement. Look how long that record has stood for. And, you know, Rooney's declined as a player, and the way that the club sort of present him as an ongoing world-class player in the kind of Messi Ronaldo bracket really does rub me up the wrong way. But the fact is, here was a kid that emerged onto the scene at such a young age and has been so consistent for his country and never really done it in the big stages in the latter part of his career, but been in some pretty terrible teams in that time, and has been incredibly effective in getting England to major tournaments, which is something they haven't always been able to do throughout their career. And you know, he's usurped another Manchester United man up there, and it's just more evidence that United players are crucial to the national team. But I was surprisingly moved by seeing Rooney score that goal and his own reaction to it. You could see it meant everything to him, you know. Yeah,
I wasn't very moved, mainly because I didn't watch either game. But hey, look, it's a great record and a great achievement for him, of course. You know, any international team top goal scorer, and it's quite easy to criticise the record, of course, because you know, you can kind of paint him as being a flat track bully, and who's never really achieved anything in major tournaments, but he's done it, right? No one else did. Gary Lineker didn't do it. Michael Owen didn't do it. Any of the others who came before didn't do it. So Rooney has, and he's done it almost despite himself, because for the last sort of 3-4 years he's had no pace and his first touch has gone missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to compare him to Lineker because you have to say Lineker had a better England career than Rooney, you know, so close in major tournaments and part of a couple of really good sides. But, you know, as you say, he wasn't able to break that record and Rooney was, and Michael Owen burnt out, and Rooney never has actually burnt out. There is a drive under Rooney's decline, which has kept his head above water at a very high level of football for a really long time. And, you know, his last major injury, I think, is a big contributing factor to all that's kind of gone wrong since. And I do think signing him up to a 5.5-year massive contract was a pretty serious strategic error by United.
196 weeks left.
But, you know, his longevity for his national team is pretty darned incredible. And, you know, it's going to take I think I called it an M. Night Shyamalan level plot twist that he doesn't do it for United as well now at this point.
Well, I'm sure he will. I mean, unless he does score less than 10 goals this season, then, you know, maybe he'll get shipped off, although who would buy him? Maybe some crazy MLS owner. I think he will break the United record at some point. Maybe not this season, though. And he's going to lead England into Euro 2016, where he will score 1 goal against Scotland as England head out of the Euros in the group stage. Talking of
Euro 2016, do you want to go back to the episode where I said Wales would qualify and you said they definitely wouldn't?
yeah. Well, they're not qualified yet.
No, that's true.
Mind you, they do need a point and they do have to play Andorra at home, so I think it's probably done. Yeah, no, hat tip to Wales. Gareth Bale, Real Madrid's Gareth Bale, definitely not Manchester United's Gareth Bale.
His agent saying this week he'll never leave, never come back to the Premier League.
Scum! So, yeah, he's driven them forward, and what an achievement. Northern Ireland may well qualify as well. I mean, they're definitely going to make the playoffs by the looks of it in an expanded Euro 2016 and could have 3 home nations.
Yeah, and I think it was a Football Ramble where they were pointing out that Wales, it looks like Wales would have qualified even under the old system probably by the end of this qualifying campaign. But I think they made the really salient point that the new system definitely gave belief to some of the smaller teams that it was worth, going foul for leather in all of these because there was a chance of getting there. So yeah, it's been good qualifying from that perspective.
Yeah, it's absolutely guaranteed that England will play Wales in the group stages, plus some dodgy Eastern European side, and then one of the big boys. And England will need a draw against Wales, and Bale hammer one home in the 89th minute and send England home.
So one of the other things that happened in the news-packed week was that at 12:01 p.m, Manchester United tweeted out that David De Gea had signed a new contract. Absolutely incredible banter from Old Trafford. Suspect I'm not going out on a limb to say that you don't think that this means that David De Gea will be our goalkeeper for the next 5 years.
No, I don't. I mean, look, come on. Actually, let's hark back to an episode a few months ago where I talked about if the transfer didn't happen, that it may well mean that United sign him up to a new contract and he stays another year. I think I articulated the reasons not very well in that episode, but I did suspect that was a possibility. They've done a Ronaldo-style deal. So actually, it makes perfectly logical sense for De Gea to sign this contract. I mean, not only are they backdating the pay to when the negotiations began, it means he's going to make more than £10 million this year, plus an extra £10 million for the year and a bit of negotiations. But it de-risks it. I mean, he's in an awfully risky position, not knowing whether Madrid will definitely sign him up, given that they were pretty sure they chickened out of it at the last minute and taking a huge hit on wages. So he'd be effectively giving up something like £20 million and risking say an injury, a Victor Valdez-style injury, and risking Real Madrid not signing him up. It's bonkers. I mean, it'd be total negligence for his agent not to push through a contract sale. And of course, for United, it makes total sense. They've locked him down and they can command a very large fee for him if he really wants to go. Although maybe he won't. Maybe he suddenly loves Manchester and didn't want to move all along. And Aderne will be walking down the ship canal, humming along,
singing the International with Jeremy Corbyn.
Ah, yes. If only United could find a decent left winger too.
It was a weird day. Like, it was joyous, obviously. Like, it's as you say, it's totally logical, makes sense for all parties. Who knows about the release clause? There's a story in The Sun that there's a £30 million release clause in there, but I'm not sure you necessarily give that credence. £30 million sounds a bit low to me. If they're if that was a big sticking point in the summer, the fee. But anyway, we'll see how it all plays out. Just brilliant seeing David De Gea tweeting, "Oh, I'm delighted to sign this new contract." It's like, sure you are, mate. There's 20 million reasons that you're delighted to sign it, but I'm quite convinced you wanted to leave 2 weeks ago. But he seemed to genuinely appreciate the fans, and United made a big deal of it, which I think was at Old Trafford. I think it's very, very smart from a kind of PR, player confidence thing, the fans fully behind De Gea. I think there's a kind of realpolitik to that. It's not necessarily born of pure emotion, although, he's a player it's easy to feel kind of positive emotions for, because we've seen him grow up and become this wonderful goalkeeper, and he didn't act up and all that stuff in the summer. But there is a kind of hard-nosed quality to it of we know you don't really want to be here, but we're going to make it as nice as possible for you here so you do as good a job as possible.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, it's good to have him back in the team, even if he is a turncoat who wanted to join Real Madrid. At least it wasn't City or Chelsea.
This is the thing, sorry to even bring this up, really, because I just get so much stick for it. But people going, "Oh, see, such double standards. Rooney did the same thing and everyone hates him." It's like, he didn't do the same thing. Rooney wasn't trying to move back to the country he comes from to be with his family and loved ones. It's not the same. If you can't see why that's has a different emotional composition, then I don't know. Anyway. So I think does that cover the United news? I feel like we're missing stuff. There was an awful lot that happened in that week.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much all of it. Wayne Rooney's international record, David Hayes' new contract, Van Gaal's bizarre press conferences. That's just a weekly occurrence, isn't it? Ferdinand saying that United fans will have to get used to watching United in a new way. I think we've worked that one out. Thanks, mate.
Hey, no, my mate Rio tweeted me, so he did.
He did.
Been waiting for that for so long. Made me so happy.
He's still got a favourite, though, which is... you know which one.
Yeah, we know that. Just have a look through Rio's photo. We can't repeat it on this family-friendly show, but if you're in the mood for some NSFW entertainment, have a look through Rio Ferdinand's favourites for Ed's tweet.
So, United back in the Champions League this week and visiting PSV Eindhoven. Memphis Depay heading home, where he'll find his level and score a hat-trick. Am I right?
I mean, it's interesting because I don't think if there was a Premier League game coming next, I think Memphis might have to sit that one out. And I think he might start young because Memphis kind of needs, in a way, like I saw somebody say this on Twitter, I think, make him earn it. He needs to work for it now because there is competition down that left-hand side and he's not been playing very well. But you can't drop him for this one because A, you don't need to. Because he obviously is very good against Dutch opposition, and two, I think it would be too much of a blow to drop him on when he's going back home to a team that obviously is very important to him.
Yeah, no, what we don't know is whether it'll spur him on to greater performances or he'll try a bit too hard, a la Rooney against Everton and Liverpool. No, you can't drop him, surely. He scored 27 goals in Dutch football last year. Mind you, PSV Eindhoven in pretty good form this season, yet to lose, just won 6-0 at the weekend against Canberra, so going great guns. A few decent players. Struggling here because of the account of doing an Alan Shearer and not actually watching any Dutch football, really. But Luc de Jong is their captain, we know him. Jetro Williams, the left-back who burst into the Dutch side at a very young age and didn't quite make it after that, we know him too.
He got a heck of a lot of assists last season.
He did, yeah. I mean, he's still got
did.
bags and bags of pace. Jeffrey Brumer, we know him, the defender. They've got a chap called Davy Proper, who's an excellent named fella.
Proper footballer, as you said.
Proper footballer.
They sold their two best players in the summer, and they've bought a bunch of players in, and it seems to be working for them in the Dutch league. But if we struggle with this one, that's a real problem. We definitely should be winning this. We need at least a draw, really, I reckon, given the way it all shakes out. I think the two games against PSV, even though they came out of pot one, might just be the easiest games, and maybe Moscow at home, but in theory at least they should be an opposition that United looking to beat if they want to do well in this group.
Well, let's make the assumption that actually some of the away games will be quite important for United, because I think at Old Trafford teams will sit deep and narrow and just hit United on the break, and it's the classic formation and tactics and system that is going to be most dangerous to United at the moment. So I think actually 3 points would be very important in this game. I kind of always have viewed the Dutch league as just like one notch above the Belgian league. I know that's like deeply racist or something, but basically it is, isn't it? Who was that fat Brazilian chap who scored like 97 goals in 12 games in Dutch football and joined Middlesbrough years ago?
I thought you were talking about Ronaldo for a second there, but it was Alonso Alves, one or the other.
Yeah, no, there is a fat Brazilian chap who was threatening to come back in the MLS or something like that last I had.
Original Ronaldo is just one of the all-time greats of all time, isn't he? What a fantastic player he was. And of course he started in Europe in the Dutch league. Plenty of very good players have come out of the Dutch league. And it's interesting because it makes you think about Memphis, because he's come over and he has really struggled in a couple of games, but there definitely looks like there's a player in there, doesn't there? And it feels like it's not a huge leap to see him really finding himself. And inconsistency, as Van Gaal is so fond of saying, is a real quality of young players.
Yeah, very true. And he's just come over to a brand new country and he's young. And of course, I think his performance level is about what we should have expected, really. I mean, so infrequently has a top player been found straight away when they're this young. But
yeah, absolutely. In fact,
now and then.
And we'll move on to some Twitter questions. At Kieran Coyle asking whether we're concerned about Memphis at all. Seems to be finding it hard for form at the moment. Obviously, it's still early days. And yeah, I think that is the absolute key. It is just still very early days. I'm certainly not really concerned about the long term with Memphis.
No, that's right. Interesting facts about PSV Eindhoven. I don't know too many, but they've retired 2 shirts.
Right.
Number 12.
Okay, who for?
Representing the club supporters.
Oh,
very nice. Number 99, representing Foxy, the club mascot.
That's not acceptable. They didn't retire the shirts of any of their legendary players, just the mascot and the fans.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It doesn't count if you retire the number 99 shirt. Nobody should be wearing number 99 in professional football.
No. And actually, brings me back to United. Have you seen United's numbers these days?
You have already complained about this on the podcast this season, Ed. Complaining about it twice makes it seem like A, you're an old man for being annoyed about it, and B, you're an even older man for forgetting about it.
Both may well be true. Plus, I'm jet lagged because I've just spent a week in California. I know you feel sorry for me.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's boiling at the moment. I mean, I know there's a drought on, but geez, I could have done with some water spray.
You were in not the hot bit of California either, right?
So I was in Marin, just north of San Francisco, and I was in Silicon Valley, Palo Alto area. Both are significantly hotter than San Francisco normally because of the weird microclimate they have there. But this is typically the hottest part of the summer for those 2 areas. And it was very hot, but no, not Southern Cali or out in the desert.
All right, at that Stevie.
Next time on California Cast.
I like it when you go to places and tell us about them, Ed. It's good. At that Steve Gray says, is Martial the new Rooney or the new Makeda? He's the new Henry. It's been well established. I like this question though. At M Siddiqui 96 says, did you go absolutely crazy when Martial scored? And which was the last goal that elicited similar euphoric levels?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the second part of that question. Yes. That said, I had just returned from California, and so I watched the whole thing on delay, which is why I switched myself off from the internet. And yes, I still went bonkers, even knowing it was 2 hours later.
I got a text from Ed, which is like, I'm not watching the game, don't tell me anything. But I was thinking afterwards, you should have sent a message to the Rantcast WhatsApp group as well, because Tom might not have got the message, but it all worked out fine. I just totally lost it. I don't very often lose it at goals, but I totally lost it. My main response was just to laugh, just a joyous laughter at the incredible kind of genuinely transcendent, intense joy of the moment. It was really incredible. And the second part of that question, the last time that happened was when Juan Mata scored his goal at Liverpool last season. My reaction was very much like Ander Herrera's. There's a brilliant picture of Martial celebrating with Herrera in the background. He's not doing the hands on the head things, but he has got his arms outstretched and he just looks absolutely joyous. Herrera's goal, you mentioned it was the first penalty he's ever taken, and he just talked about as a player, when you come to United, you dream about scoring in front of the Stretford end against Liverpool. It's like, that kid really understands football.
He really does, doesn't he? He really does, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
At Pebble Smeller, a long-time contributor to the Rantcast question bit, says, did Martial's introduction remind anyone of Ronaldo versus Bolton all those years ago? Pretty sure that you're obliged to mention that when a young player comes and does well. Yeah,
although Ronaldo was actually got directly into the game and was very good for however long he was on. I can't actually remember now, but and I've never watched that game over again. I just have this feeling of being there and him being absolutely blinding, because I remember raving about him as soon as the game ended. But and Martial didn't do that. He just had that one brilliant moment.
A heck of a moment it was too. Loads and loads and loads of questions, including one from @BeautifullyRed, the aforementioned friend of the Rantcast, who got a lovely tweet from the Man United Twitter account this week. He said, "Is it weird that my first thoughts about De Gea's new contract is how happy it must make Juan Mata and Ander Herrera?" And Man United sent him that picture of the three of them looking absolutely delighted. It's a lovely moment. I was really happy for Sean. But loads and loads of questions on this theme, which is, has Daley Blind showed enough to be considered our first choice partner for Smalling this season?
Well, he's the only choice partner at the moment. So yes, I guess so. Marcos Rojo is somewhere in Coventry with a whole list of other players that Van Gaal has fallen out of favour with, and Phil Jones is perennially injured, and there aren't any others.
And then apart from Paddy McNair, who, it's worth saying, was the only link to that 78-year-old record, and it's going to go this season.
It's going to be broken this season,
That's, especially with James Wilson going out on loan.
It will go this season, and cued by a whole bunch of copy that's probably already been written about Van Gaal tearing up United's history.
Yeah, which I think is very unfair, actually.
It is unfair because he's rebuilding the quality of youth in United's squad at the moment, but he's just doing it through acquisitions. And he did give a lot of players a chance last season. Whether they'll ever get it again, I don't know. So, and he probably just doesn't think there are good enough players in the under-21 side at the moment. And
he did say Pereira and Lingard will both get games this season. That's in his thinking, so that's interesting. And one last Rantcast question, actually, which I think is a brilliant and very interesting question, and it's from @Gigi Bambino, and it says, is our lack of cutting edge at the moment down to LVG's philosophy, or the attacking players being out of form / inexperienced? I think that is so important because, yes, Van Gaal's kind of obsessed with control, and yes, sometimes that makes the football a bit turgid, but he does not want it to be blunt. Van Gaal doesn't want the football to be blunt. He wants goals. Of course he wants goals. He wants to win games. And I think that second part is so important to consider.
Well, look, I think we're verging on the binary there, though. So I think the problem is that absolutely, of course he wants goals, and he wants United to score more goals because United are going to be more successful. The problem is he just can't achieve it with the players he's got, right? So you can say out of form, but Rooney's been out of form for a very long time, and he hasn't got any other options. And yes, he's got his other options are a couple of inexperienced kids. So I suppose that's true, that statement, but it's also a case of Van Gaal not wanting to switch things around in order to open United up, in order to score more goals. So he's making a choice that he wants United to be solid first and score goals second.
I think that's absolutely right, isn't it? I think it is. As always, the answer lies somewhere between two polar opposites. After we play PSV, we've got it's a slightly awkward one, isn't it? Because you've got away trip midweek and then another long away. It's like a relatively short, but it's still European. But then a long away trip. Nightmare for fans, of course, who go to both games. The UWS podcast from Swansea was very enlightening on that score. But yeah, a long trip down to Southampton after the European away. So we hope it goes a lot better than the Swansea game did.
Well, yeah, quite. And Southampton mixed fortunes this season, haven't they? And not really a great start. Drew with West Brom at the weekend. So
a pretty terrible start, you'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you just didn't expect it because actually they recovered so well from losing loads of players last season. I didn't expect Southampton to have a poor start to the season, but they have done. And I suppose it's 2 tough away games. We've got 3 reasonable home games, Ipswich, Sunderland and Wolfsburg. That'll be a challenge. October, mind you, if you want to talk about tough fixtures. Arsenal, Everton, Moscow, Manchester City and Crystal Palace. And only the City game is a home game of all those.
I hate to say this, but because it feels a bit fate tempty, but aren't we loads better against quite good teams who want to attack us?
I don't know whether loads better, but a good record in the last season or so, yes. So maybe we shouldn't be worried. But still, a tough October. Anyway, back to Southampton, yeah. Look, either way, I don't think this is an easy game for United. Southampton still do have some quality players. They just keep losing players, and maybe that cumulative effect is having an impact on them at the moment. But United do need some results away from home. 1-0 at Villa this season, lost at Swansea. We're not counting Bruges because they're terrible. And so, still not a brilliant away record this season.
No, absolutely not. And that this is going to be vitally important in the quest to pick up more points than we picked up last season, isn't it? Because that was where it all went wrong last season, really. A couple of unfortunate home defeats, but generally an excellent home record. and just very, very poor on the road. So he's gonna have to get that right, and to do so, I don't know. It feels a bit counterintuitive in a way. You wouldn't expect this team. It seems to be set up to do quite well away from home, and I guess Southampton will be a good test to see whether they can get over the road blues and get used to the travelling and stuff. But again, like thin squad, that isn't good for the games coming thick and fast. 2 long travelling away games. It's not like you can play 2 different 11s in those 2 games, is it?
No, I mean it's Tuesday night the PSV game, and then Sunday the Southampton game, so that gives them a good break, and then Ipswich afterwards in the Capital One Cup. So as 2 away games in a row going, one of them being European, that's not so bad.
No, it could be worse. So we will reconvene before that Ipswich game and give you full in-depth breakdown of what everything that's going on at Ipswich Town ahead of that vital Capital One encounter. Listen, some of that might not be true, but we'll see. Before we go, we've got 2 games to predict. This is all new for us. It feels totally different again this season. 2 games to predict between Rantcasts. I think we're going to win 2-1 in Eindhoven, and I think we're going to draw 1-1 at Southampton.
Yeah, do I think you're going to win in Eindhoven? I find it hard to predict lots of goals because it just doesn't feel like this is a United team that goes to score lots of goals. But still, it is Eindhoven and it is the Dutch league. So I'm going to predict a 1-0 win for United in Eindhoven and 1-1 at Southampton. All
right, so we're both going with 1-1 at Southampton. If you feel like it, you might want to lay 1-1 at Southampton because that's pretty. We both went for 2-1 against Liverpool and we were nearly right, but Anthony Martial ruined our day.
Martial. Never liked that fella.
I mean, honestly, like, what a fantastic moment in time that goal was. I put this on Twitter, but it was like, oh, good touch. Oh, great touch. Oh my God. And just the kind of how it's obviously like it happens in an absolute flash, but as it was happening, like time just seemed to absolutely stand still as the kind of magnitude of it hit. It was just brilliant. And the limbs in the Stretford end, I wish I'd been there, but just to see it on telly, United goals don't generally get reacted to like that. It was like one gigantic away end in that moment, wasn't it?
Very good, yes. One more goalgasm all round, I think, that one.
Oh, yeah, Tyler fully lost it. Oh, yes! Martin Tyler, not a man that Manchester United fans generally consider to be supportive of them, but I think that's proof, if proof were needed, that Tyler just loves narrative. So, yeah, brilliant moment. And we beat Liverpool again, 8-2 on aggregate, Van Gaal's. Got over Liverpool, and then 3-1 in that stupid International Champions Cup thing. But yeah, 8-2 in competitive games against Liverpool.
Beautiful stuff, yeah. Especially coming back after that miserable defeat against Swansea. Well, very good. That's it for this week. A long podcast, and I'm going to get to my bed and have some sleep post jet lag, I think.
All right.
We'll be back with you next week, and in the meantime, you can abuse Paul at UTD Rantcast on Twitter, and you can tweet me nothing because I haven't tweeted anything all week at United Rant.
Yeah, facebook.com/United Rant for both of us, unitedrant.co.uk/tipjar if you want to chuck us a few quid, and if you have any sound production needs, you definitely want to hit up at Teej Sound on Twitter. Producer Tom does a sterling job on the Rantcast each week. For that, we thank you, Tom.
He does sound production, you could say.
Good, I like it. See you next week.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.